Hi everyone, it's Jan with What You Make It, and I thought for today's card we would revisit some of those really cool papers that we made during our first card project. And I love this one that was kind of the gradient from pink out to red. And I have this wreath, kind of a vine wreath that's in a heart shape. So I'm kind of starting there. I think I want to do something with that. And I went and looked at any of the dies or whatever that I had that would cut an opening. And you know what? They just aren't the right size. They're a little fatter, and this one has a very kind of elongated shape to it. So I thought I would show you what I did. I took to make my own little template. I began, here's the piece of paper that I used, and I put my heart, the wreath, down on here. Get this pink behind it so you can actually see what I'm showing you. I put the wreath down in place, kind of lined up the points. And then I took my pencil and just lifted it up and made a little mark. Then I connected them, and because I was putting those marks directly underneath the wreath, when I did the cut, I came in just a little bit so that the wreath would be outside that shape. So then I had a half of a heart. And I came over here and I made a pattern for that, and I cut that out. And then I took the same one and I came down here and I made a pattern for this one. Okay, but I want to put a slightly smaller heart underneath that. So I came along, and I don't know if you can see, I'll hold this up here. Can you see my little dots that I made? Instead of trying to figure out what the curve was and all of that, I just went along, and with my pencil, I just measured out from this point visually. I didn't actually measure it, and just put a dot. And when I would come to another point, and if you make enough of those dots, it's a very easy pattern to follow and cut out. And it's going to give me probably, it's clearly not the perfection that a die would make, but it's going to work with the shape of my heart. So now I have two patterns, one that is slightly smaller than the other one. Okay, so I'm going to figure out where I want this on my card, or I want the heart, the wreath, and then I am going to come over here and trace on the back. And I will tell you that I'm going to keep this template, these two templates that I've made, I'm going to put them in where I store this die, so that I have the ability to recreate this. I don't have to go through this every time and do this. Okay, so now I'm going to use my X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to cut this out. Just follow my line here. Be sure and put something underneath you when you cut, so you don't cut through your mat. I'm about to have to replace this one, because you can see there's certainly been times when I have failed to heed my own warning. So I'm about to the point I'm going to have to replace this. Okay, I'm just going to cut this out. I'll do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my first heart cut out, and now I want to cut just the little matting piece in here. And again, on this one, because I've used the watercolor paper, you really only need to cut a piece that's large enough to fill that, but I'm going to use this cardstock back here to actually kind of help hold my curled paper flat. So that's why I'm using a little bit larger piece than I normally would. Okay, so I'm going to put this in place. And I'm going to use just a little removable adhesive just to help me hold it in place after I get this where I want it. This is the smaller one. And you see it's only going to leave just a little tiny bit there. That's what we want. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to trace this and cut it out. And I'll be back. So I've got both my hearts cut out, and because I used pencil, I'm going to go ahead and just erase around the edges. I cut, or I tried to use my X-Acto knife and go cut any of the marking of the pencil off, but I would hate to get it inside and discover that I needed it. Now I'm going to do just a little bit of Distress ink. Because this was not cut with a die, there's going to be little imperfections, and doing this will help cover those. In addition to that, because I used watercolor paper, the white was going to show there, so I really doing this little bit of inking on the edge really does help just cover all those little imperfections and a little bit of that white. So I'm going to go all the way around on this, and the next thing I want to do is let's kind of get these together. See how that's going to look. This is what I'm going to stamp my sentiment on. I think sometimes it's good to put a frame around your sentiment. Okay. So that's what that is going to look like. I've created the sentiment from several different stamp sets, but the one that inspired me is this one. It's called Stitched Sentiments, and it has the look of cross stitch, and I thought I would do the stamping and then use this impression plate that gives you kind of that counted cross stitch, that Aida cloth. It gives it that sense. So I'm going to use the Love that's in counted cross stitch here, Love, and then from a couple of other little stamp sets I am going to use You and So Much. I like versifying the onyx black when I am stamping sentiments, or anything that I'm not going to color actually, because I love how black this ink is. Let's see, it's just really, really, really good. I kind of center it, and I'm using the grid to kind of line up down the center of my heart. Do that. Lovely. From that same cross-stitched sentiment set, which is by Paper Tray Ink, there's this little heart that is also kind of cross-stitched, and I'm going to use some Jenny Bolin chili powder, and I'm going to put, because this is, I'm kind of making it like it's one of those stitched samplers, so I'm going to put a little heart up here. And over here. There we go. And now I'm going to take this piece of paper and do my impression plate. If you're going to do stamping, do your stamping first and then go and add any texture to it that you're going to. You'll get a better impression if you stamp first and then do your impression. So I'll be right back. So I thought I'd give you a really good close-up shot of the impression that this has. I love it. It really does give you the feel that you have stamped on some of that cross-stitching paper. Because our watercolor paper was not white, it's kind of this little bit of off-white. I want to add a little bit of this antique linen on here. That'll also help bring out that cloth detail as well. So I'm just going to use this is antique linen, just using my distress tool and going over it just lightly, just a little bit. Okay, so let's get our layers built up, and then we can start working on adding our wreath to it. I'm just giving it a little extra, just because we did all of those wet medium techniques. It has a tendency to want to curl a little bit, so we're just going to bend it to our will. Hope you all are having a great day. I am enjoying, I'm not really ready for winter to be over yet. I love spring, and I certainly I'm thinking about projects for spring, but I'm energized by in the winter. It's probably because I'm a woman of a certain age, you know? I carry my own eternal summer around with me. Let's put a little ATG down on here. Here's what I ought to do. Just put it where I want it here, and then lay this down. In place. Now I need to trim off just a little on the top and the bottom. I'll do that, and we'll come back and work on I'm going to trim, I'm going to pop it up so that it's in place, and then we'll start working on our wreath. So you've seen me do this technique before. I take my little punched hearts or punched flowers and use my stylus to give them a little dimension. Again, it's an easy way to add texture and depth to them. I'm going to do that also with the vine as well. Just thought I'd give you a little close-up look here of how I did that. I have all the little bits and pieces that I think I need for my wreath now. I've done a little shaping with my stylus. You know, vines and leaves are not flat, and so sometimes when we use our die cuts, we need to help our viewer's eye to know that it's a dimensional thing. So if you'll just take your stylus and just add a little bend to it here and there. Now I'm laying this on top, and I'm going to just use a few dots of glossy accents, but I think I will like it better if I actually split it here at the top, so that I can pull it out just a little bit. I'll put a flower or something there to disguise our little trickery. But I think I will like it better if I am able to pull it out so that we don't totally lose our little burgundy layer there. Does that make sense? So I'm going to use glossy accents, and I'm not going to glue every little thing down. I'm just going to choose some spots that will, because again, by gluing it down, we would be making it one dimension instead of two, and we've gone to an awful lot of trouble to make our vine, to not have our vine be dimensional. Up here. And we're going to need some right here. Just going to kind of train this around. There we go. Put those little places down. I like how the greenery is. I want to add my birds because I want the birds to be exactly where I want them. And then we can add flowers around that. So I'm going to put a little dimension on here. And I'm going to put this little chickadee up here. And put this little chickadee down here. There we go. Cute. Okay, so now let's start adding our flowers. Some stickles on there just to one more thing to but I'm just going to put some out there, and then I'm going to take my brush and just dot it into those centers where that I want it. That gets a little bit better coverage on it. Okay, well guys, I have a couple of other projects that I'm working on to finish up and come back and share with you. I hope that you're having a great day and that in the midst of whatever you're doing, you are taking some time for creative play. I'll be back soon with another project. You all take care. I'll see you soon. Bye.